First contact and confusion. High Admiral Zextal of the Galactic Federation stood motionless on the bridge of the stellar dominance, his crystalline form refracting the ambient light into subtle patterns across the command deck. After 3 centuries of leading the Federation's expansion efforts, he had overseen first contact with 47 civilizations. None had prepared him for the humans. The initial scans of Earth had seemed promising. A single habitable planet with clear signs of industrialization, primitive orbital structures, and basic space travel capabilities. Standard Protocol 7A would suffice. Demonstrate overwhelming technological superiority, offer protection under Federation law, and integrate them into the galactic community. Simple, efficient, and tested across 1,000 worlds. High Admiral, his second-in-command Vexra chimed, her crystalline form vibrating with uncertainty. The humans have responded to our arrival message. Excellent. Display their submission protocol. The holographic display flickered to life, showing not the expected formal acceptance of Federation authority, but instead a simple text message. Cool ships. Want to grab coffee and chat about that interesting quantum fluctuation in your drive signature? Zextal's crystalline structure clouded with confusion. They want to discuss our drive technology. And what is this coffee? Unknown, High Admiral. But they're broadcasting something else now. The display shifted to show a human vessel approaching. By Federation standards, it looked absurdly primitive. All angular metal and visible propulsion systems, yet something about its movement patterns seemed wrong. It was maneuvering with an efficiency that should have been impossible for its apparent level of technology. Scans indicate chemical propulsion systems, Vexra reported, but their actual velocity and energy readings don't match known physics models. A deception. Zextal's form hardened with concern. Launch probe satellites. Full spectrum analysis. The Federation's most advanced sensor platforms deployed, surrounding the human vessel in a complex geometric pattern. For several minutes they gathered data, until suddenly they all went dark. What happened? Zextal demanded. The probes they're still there, High Admiral. But they've been. Vexra paused, her crystalline form flickering with disbelief. Reprogrammed. The humans sent them back with efficiency improvements, and a note saying fixed some bugs for you. Also, coffee invitation still stands. Before Zextal could respond, a new message appeared. By the way, that crystalline resonance issue in your life support systems. We can help with that. Must be uncomfortable during long deployments. Zextal felt his structure vibrate involuntarily. The resonance issue was the Federation's most closely guarded secret, a fundamental flaw in their biocrystal technology that they'd been trying to solve for generations. How could these primitives possibly? High Admiral, Vexra interrupted his thoughts. They're sending us technical diagrams. But this can't be right. The displays filled with schematics showing not only the solution to the resonance problem, but improvements to virtually every system on their ships. The level of understanding demonstrated was centuries beyond what should have been possible for a civilization that hadn't even unified their planetary government. Sir, one of the bridge crew called out. The human vessel is, they appear to be having what they call a barbecue on their outer hull. In space, they're inviting us to join them. Zextal watched in astonishment as humans in what looked like primitive environmental suits calmly set up what appeared to be recreational equipment on their ship's exterior. They were cooking food. In open space, using the solar radiation as a heat source. High Admiral, Vexra said slowly, I believe we may need to reconsider Protocol 7A. Agreed, Zextal replied, watching as the humans began what they called space volleyball, using a force field as a net. Send a message accepting their invitation for coffee, whatever that is. And, he paused, his crystalline form shifting with something between amusement and resignation. Ask them about that resonance solution. It seems we have much to learn. As the Federation's most advanced diplomatic vessel moved to dock with the seemingly primitive human ship, Zextal couldn't shake the feeling that this first contact would change not just humanity, but the entire Federation itself. The humans had taken one look at the most powerful civilization in known space and essentially said, "Nice try, but let us show you how it's really done." And somehow, they were backing it up with casual displays of technology so advanced it appeared to break the laws of physics, all while having a picnic in space and playing games with their sensor probes. The Federation had arrived expecting to guide a primitive species into the galactic community. Instead, they were about to discover that humanity had simply been waiting for someone interesting to talk to, preferably over something called coffee. The cultural exchange. Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Curiosity watched with barely concealed amusement as High Admiral Zextal attempted to process what humans called a cat video, playing on the ship's main display. The crystalline alien's form shifted through various colors of bewilderment as a small orange tabby knocked a glass off a table. But why? Zextal's resonant voice carried genuine confusion. The creature appears to understand gravity, yet deliberately creates disorder. Is this some form of combat training? No, cats just do that, Sarah explained, taking a sip from her steaming coffee mug. We find it entertaining. Speaking of entertainment, how are your engineers doing with that quantum harmonics puzzle we sent over? The Federation Admiral's form clouded slightly. They believe it to be impossible. The mathematical principles involved suggest computational requirements beyond even our most advanced systems. Really? Sarah pulled out what looked like a simple tablet. Because my niece solved it this morning during breakfast. She's 8. Want to see her work? The display shifted to show childlike handwriting, complete with doodles in the margins. Yet the equations laid out were so elegant, so fundamental, that they made the Federation's best theoretical physics look like simple arithmetic. Your children can do this? Vexra asked, her crystalline form vibrating with disbelief. Well, not all of them. Jenny's particularly good at quantum mechanics. She struggles more with classical physics, says it's too limiting. Sarah shrugged. Kids these days, you know. The Federation representatives didn't know, and their confusion only deepened as more humans joined the meeting. Dr. James Wilson arrived wearing what appeared to be pajamas, his holographic presentation floating beside him as he explained how they'd solved the crystal resonance problem. It was actually pretty simple once we looked at it sideways through 11 dimensions, he said, yawning and pouring himself more coffee. The real trick was figuring out how to explain it without using quantum jazz. That's what we call the really fun math that doesn't work in normal spacetime. Dr. Wilson, Zextal began carefully, your civilization hasn't even achieved planetary unification. Yet you casually manipulate dimensions and solve problems that have plagued our best minds for generations. How is this possible? Oh, that's easy, James replied, pulling out a cookie from his pocket. We never got around to unifying our planet because we were too busy doing other stuff. Politics is boring. Science is fun. Want to see something cool? Before the Federation representatives could respond, James tapped his tablet. Suddenly, the entire room shifted, and they found themselves seemingly floating in deep space. Don't worry, we're still in the conference room, Sarah assured them. James just folded space a bit to give us a better view. Look there, see that galaxy cluster? We've been meaning to visit, but you know how it is. So many interesting problems to solve, so little time. Zextal's form pulsed with what might have been the crystalline equivalent of a headache. You can reach other galaxy clusters. Well, yeah, we figured out how to skip the whole faster-than-light thing. Much easier to just take a shortcut through what our kids call the squiggly space. You know, the fun part of reality where physics goes on vacation. The meeting continued for hours, with humans casually demonstrating technologies that the Federation had considered theoretical impossibilities. Yet they did it all with a relaxed informality that made it somehow more overwhelming. They weren't trying to impress anyone. They were simply sharing what they found interesting. Oh, and before I forget, Sarah added as the meeting wound down, We noticed your ships are still using linear time progression. That must be really inconvenient for long-distance travel. We can help you set up some basic temporal flexibility if you'd like. Nothing fancy, just enough to make sure you don't waste weeks getting from place to place. Linear time progression, Vexra whispered to Zextal. Is there another option? Apparently, Zextal responded, watching as James used what appeared to be a children's drawing program to sketch out temporal mechanics that would revolutionize Federation science. Though I'm beginning to wonder if we should be taking notes or simply accepting that everything we thought we knew about the universe might be wrong. Both is good, Sarah suggested cheerfully. But first, who wants to learn about pizza? You haven't experienced Earth culture until you've tried deep dish pizza while contemplating multidimensional physics. As the Federation representatives tried to maintain their diplomatic composure while facing the fact that their most advanced science was apparently equivalent to human children's homework, Sarah couldn't help but smile. First contacts were always fun, especially when they involved introducing the supposedly superior civilization to both the wonders of human cuisine and the realization that their understanding of reality barely scratched the surface. Next week, she announced, we're having a movie night. Wait until you see what we imagine might be possible. Though I should warn you, some of our old science fiction might seem a bit primitive compared to what we actually do now. Zextal and Vexra exchanged looks, their crystalline forms shimmering with what might have been fear, awe, or possibly both. They had come to teach, but were instead learning that the universe was far stranger and more wonderful than they had ever imagined. And humans were apparently on a first-name basis with its strangest and most wonderful aspects. The crisis. The emergency alert interrupted movie night aboard the Curiosity, where Captain Sarah Chen had been introducing the Federation representatives to what humans called classic sci-fi. The irony of watching Star Wars with actual spacefaring aliens wasn't lost on anyone, especially when Zextal kept pointing out how much more advanced human technology actually was compared to the fiction. The alert pulsed red across all displays, its urgency cutting through the casual atmosphere. Sarah's expression shifted from relaxed to focused in an instant, though she didn't spill a drop of her ever-present coffee. Well, she said, reading the incoming data, that's not good. What is it? Zextal asked, his crystalline form clouding with concern. Remember those spatial anomalies your scientists detected in the Carina sector? Turns out they're not natural. Someone's been punching holes in reality. Messy ones. The Federation Admiral's form pulsed with alarm. Impossible. Our scans showed only minor gravitational disturbances. Yeah, about that. Sarah pulled up a holographic display that seemed to fold in on itself in ways that made the Federation observers' crystalline forms vibrate uncomfortably. You were only scanning in 4 dimensions. Look at it in 11. The display shifted, and suddenly the minor disturbances revealed themselves as massive tears in the fabric of space-time, spreading like cracks in glass across an area spanning several star systems. By the first crystal, Vexra whispered, those readings, they're exponentially worse than anything we've encountered. How did we miss this? Don't beat yourself up about it, Dr. James Wilson said, wandering in while wearing his trademark pajamas. You can't see ultraviolet if you're only looking for infrared. Coffee, anyone? We're going to need it. The Situation Room filled quickly with both human and Federation personnel. The humans, despite the severity of the crisis, maintained their oddly casual demeanor. One young engineer was actually solving a Rubik's Cube while simultaneously calculating dimensional decay rates in her head. The entity responsible appears to be using a form of brute force dimension splitting, Sarah explained, projecting a model that made several Federation scientists' forms crack slightly from trying to process it. They're basically trying to mine alternate realities for energy. Extremely inefficient, not to mention rude. Mining alternate realities. Zextal's form sparkled with confusion. Is that possible? Oh, sure, James replied, sketching something on his tablet that looked like a child's drawing, but contained equations that would revolutionize Federation physics. It's just not very smart. Like using antimatter to toast bread. Sure, you can do it, but why would you want to? The real problem, Sarah continued, is that they're not cleaning up after themselves. These tiers will keep growing. Based on our models, they'll reach Federation space in about 6 standard days. Earth space in 8. 6 days. Vextal's form paled. Even our fastest ships would take months to evacuate a single system. The Federation core worlds hold billions. Yeah, that won't work, Sarah agreed. We need to patch reality back together before it unravels completely. James, remember that thing we did at your daughter's science fair? The one that got us banned from future science fairs because it was too dangerous. That's the one. Think it'll scale up? James did some quick calculations on his tablet, occasionally muttering about quantum coefficients and dimensional spring constants. Maybe. But we'll need more power than Earth's entire energy grid produces in a year. The Federation could assist, Zextal offered quickly. Our combined fleet carries enough antimatter to power a small star. Sarah and James exchanged looks. That's cute, Sarah said diplomatically. But we're going to need real power. Hey, anyone remember where we parked that dwarf star we were saving for a rainy day? I think Dr. Martinez was using it to heat his pool. Someone called from the back of the room. Perfect. Ask if we can borrow it. Oh, and we'll need about 1,000 quantum harmonizers. The good ones, not those toys we use for teaching kids. The Federation representatives watched in stunned silence as humans casually discussed moving stars and manipulating the fundamental forces of reality like they were planning a weekend barbecue. There is one problem, though, James added, frowning at his calculations. To fix this properly, we need to operate simultaneously in all affected dimensions. Our ships can handle it, but... He glanced apologetically at the Federation representatives. Their technology, advanced as it had seemed to them just weeks ago, simply wasn't capable of existing in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. We can modify some of their ships, Sarah suggested. Nothing fancy, just enough to keep them from collapsing when reality gets a bit fuzzy around the edges. Modify our ships, Zextal asked. How long would such upgrades take? Oh, about an hour, James said, already sketching out the plans. Maybe 2 if we stop for lunch. Anyone want pizza while we rewrite the laws of physics? As the humans began their preparations, Zextal realized that the Federation's role in this crisis would not be to save the day with their supposedly advanced technology. Instead, they would watch in amazement as humans treated a tear in the fabric of reality like a home improvement project. Albeit one that required borrowing a star and breaking several laws of physics that the Federation hadn't even known were suggestions rather than rules. One more thing, Sarah added, finishing her coffee. Someone should probably tell whoever's doing this to stop. It's not just dangerous, it's inefficient. If they need energy that badly, we can show them how to fold space into a Klein bottle. Much cleaner, and the math is simple enough that most of our high school students can do it. The crisis was serious. The stakes were literally reality-breaking, but somehow the humans made it all seem like just another interesting problem to solve between coffee breaks and pizza orders. Humanity's solution. The combined fleet of Federation and human ships, gathered at the edge of the affected space, looked like a family reunion where half the relatives showed up in luxury vehicles and the other half arrived in handmade dimensional pocket universes. The Federation vessels gleamed with crystalline precision, while the human ships seemed to casually ignore several laws of physics just by existing. All right, Sarah broadcast to the assembled fleet. Reality patch day. Everyone remember to back up your local dimensional constants before we start. And yes, this will void the warranty on existence for this sector. Dr. James Wilson, now wearing what he called his serious work pajamas, they had equations printed on them, coordinated from the Curiosities lab. He turned the borrowed dwarf star into what he called a quantum power strip, a feat that had several Federation scientists quietly questioning their career choices. The dimensional tiers are spreading faster than predicted, Vexra reported, her crystalline form vibrating with anxiety. We're detecting cascading failures across all monitored spectrums. Yeah, reality gets a bit dramatic sometimes, James replied, fine-tuning what looked suspiciously like a child's science project, but contained enough computing power to simulate entire universes. Everyone got their quantum harmonizers ready. Remember, blue side up. The pink side is for emergency yogurt production. Zextal, watching from the Federation flagship's newly upgraded bridge, tried to maintain his diplomatic composure. Captain Chen, are you certain this plan will work? The calculations suggest we'd need to manipulate fundamental forces across multiple dimensional planes simultaneously. Oh, that's the easy part, Sarah said, sipping her coffee while casually adjusting settings that would make veteran Federation engineers faint. The tricky bit is making sure we don't accidentally create any temporal recursion loops. Those are super annoying to clean up, and the paperwork is ridiculous. The human ships moved into position, arranging themselves in a pattern that seemed to hurt the eyes if you looked at it too long. Each vessel deployed what the humans called reality anchors, devices that looked like they'd been assembled from spare parts and children's toys, but somehow kept local space-time from unraveling. By the way, James added, we found out who's been punching holes in reality. Turns out it's a group of energy prospectors from the Andromeda Galaxy. We sent them a strongly worded letter and some basic quantum engineering textbooks. They were pretty embarrassed about the whole thing. You contacted them. Zextal's form clouded with surprise. The Andromeda Galaxy is millions of light years away. Well, yeah, we used the quantum postal service. You know, the one that delivers mail through probability waves. No. Remind me to show you later. It's super convenient for sending birthday cards across cosmic distances. The operation began with what the humans called reality origami, folding space-time back on itself to contain the spreading tiers. Federation ships, newly equipped with human-designed dimensional stabilizers, provided support by anchoring key points in space-time. The process looked less like a complex scientific procedure and more like a cosmic arts and crafts project. Everyone watched this part, Sarah announced cheerfully. It's pretty cool. The borrowed dwarf star pulsed with impossible colors as James channeled its energy through the quantum harmonizers. Reality itself seemed to hiccup, and for a brief moment, everyone experienced what it felt like to exist in 11 dimensions simultaneously. Several Federation crew members would later describe it as like sneezing in colors that don't exist. Oops, James muttered, making a quick adjustment. Sorry about the extra dimensions there. Should have warned you to keep your temporal shields up. Everyone's still existing in the right number of spatial dimensions. The tiers in reality began to seal themselves, the fabric of space-time knitting back together under the influence of forces that the Federation's best scientists were still struggling to comprehend. The human ships danced through dimensions, their crews treating fundamental reality like modeling clay. There we go, Sarah said, satisfied. Just needed a little patch. James, how's it looking on your end? Pretty good. Had to restart the universe a couple of times in localized areas, but nothing major. Oh, and I think we accidentally solved that weird quantum tunneling issue in Sector 7. You know, the one that was making all the stars look purple on Tuesdays. The Federation observers watched in stunned silence as humans casually reversed what should have been an apocalyptic crisis while discussing it like a minor home repair project. The most advanced civilization in known space had just been shown that their understanding of reality barely scratched the surface of what was possible. All done, Sarah announced. Reality is back to its proper shape, more or less. We added a few improvements while we were in there. You know, better quantum conductivity, smoother probability curves, that sort of thing. Should make faster than light travel a bit more efficient for everyone. Also, James added, We took the liberty of installing some basic safety protocols to prevent future reality mining attempts. Kind of like child-proofing the universe. It's not perfect, but it should stop anyone from accidentally unraveling existence while looking for a power source. As the fleet regrouped, Federation ships' sensors struggled to process the improved reality around them. The humans had not only fixed the crisis, but had essentially upgraded the local laws of physics while they were at it. "Oh, and one more thing," Sarah said. "Since we had reality opened up anyway, we went ahead and fixed that annoying light speed limit. It was really more of a suggestion anyway. Just be careful for the first few days. Physics might feel a bit smoother than you're used to." The Federation had arrived, expecting to help solve a crisis. Instead, they had watched humans treat universal constants like user preferences and restructure reality itself between coffee breaks. The universe, it seemed, was not just stranger than they had imagined. It was exactly as strange as humans thought it should be. A new understanding. 1 month after the reality crisis, High Admiral Zextel found himself sitting in what humans called a coffee shop on Earth, his crystalline form adapted to hold a cup of the beverage that seemed to fuel human innovation. Captain Sarah Chen sat across from him, enjoying a pumpkin spice latte, while casually manipulating a small black hole as a paperweight. "So," she said, "how are the Federation worlds adapting to the new physics patch?" "The reports are interesting," Zextal admitted, his form shifting through colors of amazement and confusion. "Travel times between systems have decreased by 99.9%. Our scientists are still trying to understand how you manage to make light speed more of a polite suggestion than a law." Oh, that was mostly James's idea. He was tired of having to fold space every time. He wanted to visit his cousin in Andromeda for weekend barbecues. The coffee shop itself was a perfect example of how humans mixed the mundane with the impossible. The barista was using what looked like a normal coffee machine, but it actually pulled beans from different probability streams to create the perfect brew. A graduate student in the corner was working on her thesis by running quantum calculations through her lattice cream pattern. "The Federation Council has been in continuous session," Zextal continued, "trying to process everything we've learned. Your civilization has changed our understanding of, well, everything." Sarah nodded sympathetically. "Yeah, paradigm shifts can be rough. But hey, at least you guys are handling it better than the Andromedans. Did you hear they tried to submit their reality mining equipment for a human elementary school science fair? The judges had to let them down gently." Through the coffee shop window, they could see a Federation diplomatic vessel landed in the park across the street. It had been upgraded with human technology, which meant it now technically existed in several dimensions at once and could probably make a decent cappuccino in a pinch. "There is one thing I still don't understand," Zextal said, his form rippling with curiosity. "Your species achieved all this, mastery over reality, casual manipulation of fundamental forces, interdimensional coffee brewing, without ever unifying your planet. How?" Sarah grinned. "Why would we need to unify? Diversity drives innovation. Some of our best breakthroughs came from people trying to prove each other wrong. Did you know we figured out dimensional folding because 2 scientists got into an argument about pizza toppings?" At that moment, Dr. James Wilson wandered in, still in his pajamas despite it being mid-afternoon. He was carrying what looked like a child's science project, but was actually a prototype for a new type of universe. "Hey Sarah, quick question," he said, pulling up a chair. "If I accidentally created a temporal recursion while trying to make instant coffee actually instant across all timelines, should I fill out Form TR7 or just pretend it never happened retroactively?" "Did you remember to carry the temporal remainder?" Sarah asked. "No, but I did factor in the quantum caffeination coefficient." "Better file the TR7 then. Last time someone messed with coffee-related causality, we had to restart Tuesday. Twice." Zextal watched this exchange with what passed for crystalline bemusement. The Federation had spent millennia building what they thought was the peak of technological civilization. Then they met humans who treated laws of physics like software updates and solved universe-ending crises between coffee breaks. Oh, by the way, Sarah added, turning back to Zextal, we're organizing a little get-together next week. Sort of a thanks for helping us fix reality party. We're thinking of hosting it in a nice little dimension we keep around for special occasions. You know, the one with the really good acoustics for quantum harmonics. And excellent pizza, James added. Reality might not care if you fold it, but pizza dough definitely does. The Federation Admiral found himself agreeing to attend a party in a pocket dimension, and somehow this seemed perfectly normal now. In just a few months, humans had completely transformed his understanding of what was possible, probable, and proper in the universe. There is one other thing, Zextal said, his form shifting to official communication colors. The Federation Council has a proposal. We'd like to establish a formal exchange program. Our younger crystallines could learn from your educational system. Sure, Sarah replied. Though you might want to start them in the intermediate classes. The advanced ones get a bit weird. You know, the ones where they have to redesign quantum mechanics for extra credit. As they continued their discussion, a young human child walked past their table, casually solving what looked like complex dimensional equations on a holographic tablet while eating an ice cream cone. The equations, Zextal realized with a start, would revolutionize Federation mathematics, and the child was doing them for fun. The universe, it turned out, was not just stranger than the Federation had imagined. It was exactly as strange as humans wanted it to be. And somehow, that made it even more wonderful. More coffee? Sarah offered, as a small temporal eddy swirled through her cup, perfectly aging the brew to its optimal drinking time. Zextal accepted, his crystalline form adapting to better appreciate the beverage that